We tried to tell them, didn't we, baby?
We definitely did.
Welcome to In Love with Horror, everybody. My name is AJ.
And I'm Kristie.
And today, y'all, we're going to be giving y'all our non-spoiler review of The Exorcist Believer. So, the way we're going to break down this non-spoiler review for y'all is we're going to give you some information about the film, like the writer, the director, synopsis, the performers, and then we'll dive into a couple different sections. So first, we'll talk about like our initial thoughts, then thoughts on the plot. We'll talk about performances, and then go into like the horror angle, like how scary was it, and then compare it to the original Exorcist, which it is a direct sequel of, and then we'll give y'all our rating at the end of the video. So with that, baby, let's go ahead and jump into the details of The Exorcist Believer.
All right, so the director we all know is David Gordon Green. The writers are David Gordon Green as well as Peter Sattler and Scott Teems. It does star Leslie Odom Jr. as Victor, Olivia O'Neill as Catherine, Lydia Jewett as Angela, Ann Dowd as Paula, that was the nurse, Jennifer Nettles as Miranda, which is the mom, Norbert Leo Butts, Tony, which is the dad, Catherine's dad, and of course, Ellen Bernstein as Chris McNeil.
Yeah, and so for the synopsis for this film, basically you have Leslie Odom Jr., who's playing Victor Fielding. He's a single father. He's been raising his daughter Angela for the last 13 years, and one day she gets shot up at school, and her friend Catherine go off into the woods, and they go missing for like 3 days. And then suddenly they both turn back up, and they start showing signs of what appears to be demonic possession. And of course, Victor goes into, trying to figure out what's going on, and ends up getting in touch with Chris McNeil, the mom from the OG Exorcist, if you're not familiar. And then the story kind of plays out from there. So that's kind of a basic rundown of all the details of The Exorcist Believer. So I'll let you go first, baby. We'll start off with our initial thoughts. What are your initial thoughts of The Exorcist Believer?
Yeah, so like I told you, I'm kind of like, I have mixed feelings about it. It's like half of it I actually liked, and then the other half was just like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
So because of that, I would say I have mixed feelings about it. I really enjoyed the first half. I like the story, some elements of the story anyway, and obviously the development of the characters. And then that second half is just like goes downhill. I really wasn't really feeling it. It didn't feel like how I would say an Exorcist sequel should feel. Yeah. So ultimately, I just feel like middle of the road, I guess, for it.
Okay.
Wasn't great at all,
Right.
but it wasn't like the worst movie ever.
Okay. Well, I'm a little different than you. I have no mixed feelings. I thought this movie was not good. It was borderline terrible. And kind of to your point, this really to me, the second half / like the last 60% of the film that just derails it completely for me and just makes it just a pretty bad movie. And we'll dive into the specifics, of course, non-spoilers, but yeah, my initial thoughts, there's no like mixed feelings for me. This is not good at all. Like, I feel like my reactions to like the trailers and all that stuff was pretty much spot on. Like I read it, man, from the trailers, and it's disappointing, but yeah, nah, it's not good, y'all. So let's go ahead and dive into our thoughts on the plot. And of course, I'll let you go first, baby. Kind of give your overall impressions of the plot, of course, non-spoiler, and then like, you can kind of include in the plot like things like the pacing and the flow of the story and character development, all those things.
Yeah, so like I said, the first 50% of the movie I thought was good. It developed well. We got to know like the backstory of our main character Victor and Angela. I I think that that first half really just kind of like set up the movie well.
Mm-hmm.
It unfortunately didn't carry over to the right. It's like they had this really great beginning and they didn't know what to do with the rest of the movie in
Right.
order to make it into this Exorcist sequel. Um, I felt like they had some really great ideas and really great concepts for their overall story and plot. They just didn't execute them very well, and it didn't seem like one cohesive piece. And that is attributed to my mixed feelings because I felt like um, if they took out the connection to The Exorcist, I think this might would have been a much better received film
Mm-hmm.
on my part in it as well. But yeah, I just feel like the story overall could have been great if they just delivered it properly. I do feel like it rushed after that 50%. It's like they got to a point and then it was
Right.
just like on speed, work
Yep.
time, like, super fast speed.
Yep.
And we didn't even really get to experience like the possession. It was like
Mm-hmm.
we got a couple tastes and then it's like a full-fledged possession, let's
Yep.
exercise them type of thing. um I guess I'll save that point for when we compare, but yeah, so I would say that there were like some pacing issues with the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you were asking, right?
Yep. Yeah. 100%. No,
Okay.
and I agree
Yeah.
completely. The pacing for me is probably one of the biggest downfalls of this film is, and like you said, baby, like it reaches a point. There's a certain point in the film, and you can feel it that
Mm-hmm.
once something happens in the film, when a certain character is introduced, suddenly the film moves at this breakneck speed, and almost feels like it's just jumping from like part to
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
get up until that point. You get some great like character development, some great character build up. You start to learn about the characters, and up until that point, the movie is actually okay. But then after
Mm-hmm.
that, like it just sort of falls apart, and it's that breakneck speed pacing where you're just kind of jumping from like almost like
Yeah.
storyboard,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
like the way it plays out, and you just be like,
Yeah.
man, like we're getting into stuff, and I don't even feel like we had time to really build up
Mm-hmm.
to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
uh,
also,
yeah,
I just want to add on to that is, um, we spent a lot of time with Victor and Angela's story.
yes,
And I know that they're primarily like the main
yeah, they're definitely
characters,
the main. Yep.
but I feel like because Catherine does play an important role in the possession, I would have liked to get a little bit more of the other family too.
Yeah,
At least a little bit. It was like the only thing I know about them is that they were religious.
yeah,
That's all I could tell you about their family.
yep,
Um, I could tell you a whole lot more about Victor and his family than I could this one, and especially since
yeah,
they have. I mean, it's not like a primary. It wasn't a main role, but I feel like Catherine still held a very important piece of the story, and so
absolutely.
I felt like there should have been a little bit more backstory with that family too. It didn't have to be a whole lot, but definitely more than what we got.
Then yeah, what they gave, yeah, absolutely, and I think that would have helped with further um, like just create even better like grounding for the characters because you get to see the contrast between the two different households, like a religious household versus non-religious, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a theme that's played throughout the film is concepts of like religion and faith, and different cultural beliefs, and those are all concepts that are there that are cool conceptually, but the execution of them are just
Mm-hmm.
terrible. Like there are some really cool um, cultural things in this film, y'all, and I know you agree 100%, baby. I won't give away any details because you don't really see a whole lot of it in the trailer. You get a little glimpse with
Mm-hmm.
the woman drawing the thing on the floor and stuff, but it dives into different cultural beliefs and some of those elements of the film are really cool, but the overall execution is so poor, and the pacing and all that is just so bad that the plot just suffers, and it makes the movie just not good. I was sitting there a couple times. I was just kind of like, man, like this movie's crazy. And then and it's funny, y'all. So check this out, y'all. So when we were filming, when we were getting prepared to film this video, right? The movie moves so fast at towards this 40% to 50% mark that we couldn't even tell you the name of some of the characters that are featured pretty frequently, like the nurse character that Ann Dowd plays. We were both sitting there like what was her name? I'm like, I don't know. And there were some other characters like that where we were like, what is their name? I couldn't tell you. There are some characters in there where I literally, who are featured quite a bit, and I could not tell you their name because the movie moves so fast until, like you said, baby, like it focuses so much on Victor and Angela, the father and the daughter, that it makes everyone else suffer. And then there's, it was hilarious though. We were like sitting there like, what's the name of that character? I don't know. Even hey look, this is funny. Check this out. I'm gonna tell them this too. This is hilarious, y'all. We went on IMDb, right, to get the show note, get the video notes for this, because we were like, oh, it's got to be up there. Ann Dowd's character's name got to be up there. Even IMDb don't have the character's name on there for Ann Dowd. Even IMDb don't know. We ended up having to get it from Wikipedia, and hopefully that was right. But all that to say, to prove the point that this movie is moving so fast, y'all, that you can't even you don't even get the moment to digest and experience things with these characters. But anyway, that's our thoughts on the plot, y'all. Let's go into performances. I think this will be a great category. Why are you laughing so much?
You told him how to let it go.
Because it's hilarious, man. But yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about performances, babe. What performances did you like and didn't you like?
I really love Leslie Odom Jr. I was hesitant at first. Like, I've only seen him in Hamilton, so I can't compare him to something else on like screen or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But I liked him as a dad. I thought he came across as like a single dad and someone that he didn't play about his daughter.
No, he sure didn't. He did not play. And if you see the movie, you know what we talking about on that part.
Yes.
Yep, he don't play.
He did not play. Yep. So I thought he did a good job.
I did the same thing for our baby. Shoot.
Yes.
I'll be the same way.
I would be the same exact way. I thought his performance was the strongest. Yeah.
That's it.
Was my favorite one.
Yeah.
The other parents, they're kind of weak in my opinion. Yeah. And that may be on purpose because I feel like that dynamic was very clear, right? Like even during certain tense scenes, I still felt like, he was way more heavy-handed, I guess, compared to them. Even in the stressful moments, they were much more passive.
Yeah.
Than, I can't get into spoilers, but there's one part where the Catherine's dad was just like, where is this man? You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like, so it was definitely a lot different. And that might have been on purpose when I look at it that way. Yeah. It was great seeing, the return of such. I think she still, by the way, she looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, she looks great. She looks so amazing for her age. She looked great on screen. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
It kind of reminded me of, and I'm not going to remember her name, but the Princess Leia actress when they, when we saw
Carrie
her
Fisher.
briefly. Yes, Carrie Fisher. Yes, it kind of reminded me of that moment.
Yep.
It's kind of like angel singing in heaven type thing. But even though her part was small, I still think she delivered what she was given. She delivered what she was given just fine.
Yeah.
I thought the girls did okay for what they had to do.
I thought they did pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say more the possession parts
those
were better.
Those possession parts were crazy.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
I thought they killed the possession parts.
Yeah, those possession parts were a lot stronger than the, earlier scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thoughts on performances.
Yeah, I agree with, I think, all of what you said. Leslie Odom Jr., I think he did a great job. I think I told you there's moments where, like, I felt like he could have been a little more emotional, especially given the circumstances, like, hey, your daughter's missing. You know, but
I think
overall,
he kept a cool head.
Yeah, I think overall, like, he did a great job. There are some moments with, like, there's a lot of different monologues in this film. There's a lot of exposition in this movie, and some of them just did not deliver very well. And you'll see that with an actor who plays one of the priests in the film. I think there was one that was by Ann Dowd that I didn't really like either. But I agree with you with Ellen Burstyn. I think she was very, like, regal on screen, like, and some of her moments of acting I thought were pretty good. There were some that were kind of rough, but I think that was more because of the writing, not so much on her. I think it was more like just the dialogue that she was given that I think just didn't come off very good.
I agree.
And I thought the girls did a great job possession-wise. I thought they were fine in the beginning, like non-possession. Especially, I thought the relationship between Victor and Angela in the beginning was like super genuine. Like, it felt very real. Like when they were, they're playing some games in the house and stuff like that. Like, it felt very authentic. But yeah, the possession moments were really good. There was a couple times where I felt like, because obviously they're using like a voiceover effect to make it demonic sounding. And there's sometimes I felt like the voice effect didn't line up exactly with their mouths. I don't know if you noticed that when watching it too.
I didn't notice that.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Did not have my glasses on.
Yeah. Oh. That's why. But there's a couple of times where I felt like it didn't match the mouth movement very good. But other than that, yeah, I think the girls did a fantastic job possession wise. There were some couple moments that were like pretty creepy in some of their delivery. But we'll dive into the horror elements of this next. This is a perfect segue. So let's talk about first, like, the horror of this film. I want to ask you, one, did you think it was scary? And two, kind of like the degree of the scariness. Like, do you even consider this to be, well, I'm not going to say, do you consider it to be a horror film? I won't say that, but talk about that degree of scariness, because I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are on how scary this film is, especially when you think about the OG Exorcist.
Well, even aside from the OG Exorcist, I thought this was like a level 1 in terms of scariness.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't scary at all, actually.
Yep.
They had a couple jump scares, but it was like,
they're kind of cheap.
It's one of those loud noise ones. I
thought they're kind of cheap.
Yeah. The thing that scared you wasn't a scary thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, I'll definitely put it down at level 1 for scariness. But I will say, like, the features, like when the girls were possessed, I thought those came across really, really good.
Yeah, the effects were great.
Very scary. Like, it's not scary. They look creepy.
Yep.
And yeah, so that was good. Like, the level of creepiness was definitely there.
Yeah.
Mid, but still much more so than scary.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that overall horror, especially when thinking about the OG Exorcist, is definitely level 1. That you ain't gonna lose no sleep over this movie. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You won't be losing no sleep. Yeah. But it does have horror elements to it. I thought the moments in the film in the beginning where, like, the daughters are missing, that's a very real life type of horror that I felt came across really well. And just, us being parents, like, that just the idea of, like, you have no idea where your child is. Like, it's a very real life horror. And just seeing, like, the reaction, how things played out, like, that was actually, like, almost creepier or scarier than the actual possession parts. Because, like, it's a weird thing to say, but when I think about the original Exorcist film, and, like, it almost feels like what was at stake was so grand, like the threat of this little girl's life. And it's like, even though these girls in this film were possessed and there's that same threat, it just didn't feel the same. Like, it's like I didn't feel the stakes. if that makes sense. I can't even describe it other than that, but maybe it's just because of the overall progression of the film, it being like so fast and breakneck, that I didn't have a chance to really like buy into it, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that the almost the horror element of the possession just, I don't know, just didn't feel as good. But there's definitely some great visuals in the film. I think there are some great moments of visuals, some great special effects. There's one particular moment towards the end that I thought was very creepy. But yeah, overall as a horror package compared to the original Exorcist, yeah, level one all the way. Now with comparing it to the original Exorcist, because of course Believer is a direct sequel to the first one. It ignores all other ones. We're going off of the Exorcist, right? Did you want to talk a little bit about kind of your thoughts on it being a direct sequel and continuing that story? Did you like where they took the story and like how that played out?
No, I didn't like where they took the story. Like I said, this probably would have resonated better with me and probably with you as well if it had no connection to The Exorcist at all.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's a strong enough film to say this is a sequel to the first Exorcist.
Yeah.
Like I told you, like there's a lot missing from this movie to I guess say it aligns with the first movie. It doesn't have that heavy impact. Definitely don't. I think I said this to you too. Like the first movie is what it is because it pushed a lot of boundaries during that time. And I felt like for this movie to be any close to the level of that movie, it had to push some boundaries. And it was like they were close to being to the boundary line, but they didn't actually cross the boundary line.
Oh, definitely. I agree with that.
If they had done so, I think this would have been a totally different movie. Because I thought that they were gonna go there in some instances, but it was like they were like teasing it, and they was like, okay, well, we can't actually do this. Like, you know, what I'm saying?
Can't go too far,
right? You know, it's just like, oh, that's dumb. Like it's 2023. Like, come on,
we got stuff like Terrifier out here, Terrifier 2, and they're about to re-release that joint. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So there's no reason that they shouldn't have tried to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And then one of my biggest issues is the journey to the possession. Like we sit with Reagan's possession for a while, like before she's actually exorcised. We don't get that with this film, and so that's one of the biggest things I didn't really like. I don't see that that initial possession or the progression of the possession. You know what I'm saying? It's like we only get like a little tidbits.
Even when you compare like the original movie to this and like the passage of time, like you don't get that sense of passage of time, like how long it's been since they first got possessed. It almost feels like it happens in one night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
does seem really fast. Yeah. I would compare the the pacing of this movie to like The Boogeyman, because that was just that was rough. Yeah. But so in regards to the first one, I just feel like there wasn't enough of the possession to really like make an impact. I think that's probably why you feel the way you feel about not having that connection, because we don't really get to experience the progression of the kids. And then, like I said, like it's just really like no boundaries pushed at all with this movie. Right. So those are my comparisons.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The boundaries were not pushed, and even when it felt like they were going to, they almost like they would hold back, you know? Yeah. So that was a little unfortunate. And then, you know, talking about like how you said, like spending time with the characters and stuff, even the concepts within this movie that deal with like religion and faith and different cultural beliefs. If you think back to the OG Exorcist, like with Father Karras and like his struggle with faith and stuff like that, we actually spent a lot of time with him too, because the movie is very much about him as well and his struggle with faith, right? and we get different things. We get dream sequences. We get, him doing, basically like confessions, and, we get different things, and to like help build that character and the concept of struggling with faith. But we don't get that in this film. They try to have the concepts there of being a deeper movie, like The Exorcist, the original, but they don't like put forth the groundwork by allowing room for things to breathe, to build up and make sense.
I think it's like they put all these ideas together out on a table.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, these are some really great ideas.
Yep.
But they don't cohesively make it into a good movie.
Right. Exactly. It very much was like a idea berries type thing. Like, oh, we're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about religion, different cultural beliefs, love, and then like trying to like fit different segments without really having a clear journey and story. It just didn't. It definitely just, and it's strange because you would hear them talk about paying respects to the original, but you don't feel it in this film, especially like, even the Chris McNeil character, she's in it, but she doesn't even feel like an integral part, if that makes sense.
Not.
If you pulled her out of this movie, it wouldn't really even make a difference, honestly, in my opinion. So it's definitely just like that was like a fan service. And then, they just threw stuff on a dartboard almost and was like, okay, we got to talk about this, and this, hit these points, but no focus on the writing and the plot and the story. So, I don't know. As a direct comparison, it's just, it's not even close. It's not matched at all. And it's unfortunate. I wish somebody else would have taken up the mantle to do this sequel. And I just put out a tweet while we were recording this that I'm like, why Universal Pictures keep letting David Gordon Green make these movies, man? Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you didn't like Halloween Kills, you won't like this, because the dialogue and all that shit is like very similar, bad pacing, all that stuff. So, like, Universal Pictures needs to do something else. I understand that David Gordon Green probably going to is directing all three of these, but they might want to reconsider and let somebody else do the Deceiver movie. You know what I'm saying? But all right, so that's all of our thoughts. Let's go ahead and get into the rating. This is where it's going to get interesting. But I'll let you go first. What is your rating?
Yeah,
on the In Love with Horror scale?
Because we do out of 5.
Yep.
I'm going to have to go with 2.75.
Really? That's high.
Yeah, I just really like the beginning part. Like, I really honestly wish they could cut it in half, right? Mm-hmm. Give me another ending on that movie, because that would have been much better.
Wow. So you like the beginning that much?
Yeah. Don't come for me, because you remember when we discussed The Nun 2 and you were just so harping on that last. You gave that movie a high rating because of the last act.
It wasn't just because.
It was primarily.
Let's keep it a buck, though. Okay.
Let's keep it a buck.
Let's keep it a buck. The Nun 2 is way better than this movie. See, that's why you hesitated, because I'm right. Nun 2 is way better than this.
Okay, give me your rating. Right. I'm trying to get this under 30 minutes.
I'm right.
No, I like it.
But anyway, 2.75 I think is kind of high, but I understand where you're coming from. You like the concepts and all that stuff.
Yeah, I did.
I'm not going that high. I'm going like 1, maybe 1.25. Because there are some cool concepts in this film. Like, don't get it wrong. I thought this movie was bad, but there are some singular moments. I was like, okay, that's cool, or that looked cool. That visually looked good. The Exorcist theme is still hard, but I can't just ride off of concepts. Yeah, it is. It's still fire. It's still fire. But I can't just ride off of concepts, man. Like, if you can't have a good concept, but then the execution just be poor. You need to get points for concept. I mean, I guess you can get points for concept, but not a lot. So it just didn't.
We can agree to disagree.
I'm gonna go 1.25. I think.
Okay.
Yep. And obviously things can change. We watch stuff again, but I think right now I'm going that low. I'm going like a 1.25 because this joint was rough. But all right, y'all, that's what we here at In Love with Horror think about The Exorcist Believer. If you've seen the film, go ahead and drop down below in the comments your thoughts on the movie. Did you like it? What didn't you like? Your favorite parts? And let us know your rating of The Exorcist Believer. And, let me know if y'all think that someone else should come in and direct The Exorcist Deceiver, which the sequel is already scheduled. Do you think Universal Pictures can kind of shift and maybe get a different team to continue the trilogy? How do y'all think something like that could work out? And then what you think could happen for the next film? Because they kind of left it open. So before I exit, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, IG, all those things, because this is our non-spoiler review. Depending on when you're watching this, we may or may not already have our spoiler review podcast up for The Exorcist Believer. If it's not up yet, make sure y'all subscribe so you'll be ready to view that when it drops, because then we can actually go into detail and talk about all the tidbits and the nitty gritty, because that's where the real conversation is to be had with this film. But make sure you're following us and subscribe, and thank you so much for tuning into this video, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.